But wait, there's more. Because now tonight we have learned about something else really important that is going to happen that same day after Cohen is sentenced. It's going to be just hours after Cohen's sentencing in a hearing that is set for a D.C. courtroom at 3:15 Eastern Time Wednesday afternoon. We learned today that in the case of Maria Butina, she's accused by prosecutors of being a foreign agent working secretly on behalf of the Russian government in this country to influence the Republican Party, the conservative movement, and potentially the 2016 election. We learned today that Maria Butina's case is coming to an end. Prosecutors and defense lawyers telling the judge today that they had reached some kind of resolution for her case. They also asked the judge to schedule a hearing in which she could change her plea. Maria Butina had previously pled not guilty, so wanting to change her plea implies that she now intends to plead guilty. Then ABC News was first to report tonight that in conjunction with her guilty plea to a conspiracy charge, Maria Butina will also agree to cooperate with federal, state, and local authorities in ongoing investigations. CNN then soon added the fact that, or the report that Butina has already started meeting with prosecutors as part of this deal. If this ABC and CNN reporting is correct, that means that on Wednesday afternoon, the judge will be hearing Maria Butina's guilty plea, and we presumably will have some public-facing indication of the kind of cooperation deal she is making in conjunction with that plea. I should tell you, the Daily Beast has just matched that reporting from ABC News and CNN, and in their report, they're adding some sort of incredible details that they say are quotes from the plea agreement. And again, NBC News has not confirmed this reporting, but here's two examples of what the Daily Beast is citing tonight, saying that this is from the plea agreement that we will see in court when Maria Butina has her hearing to change her plea. Quote, Butina helped arrange a trip to Moscow for NRA leaders in December 2015. She pushed for those Americans to visit with senior Russian politicians, according to the plea deal. The Americans on the trip met with Sergei Lavrov, Russia's Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Dmitry Rogozin, a Putin deputy. After the trip, Maria Butina sent a message in Russian to the Russian central bank official to whom she basically reported as part of this alleged foreign agent scheme. Her message had two translations in the plea agreement. The first translation, about these NRA officials going to Moscow in December 2015, said, quote, we should let them express their gratitude now. We will put pressure on them quietly later. The second translation, the alternate translation in the plea agreement, according to the Daily Beast, said, quote, we should allow them to express their gratitude now and then quietly press. So again, that was a trip to meet with Russian government officials in Moscow in December 2015. It was senior people in the NRA. We will put pressure on them quietly later. Let them express their gratitude now. That NRA trip in December 2015, that was at the exact same time that Trump National Security Advisor Mike Flynn was also in Moscow, sitting with Vladimir Putin at a gala dinner the Russian government paid him to attend. The Daily Beast also reports this tonight. Quote, according to the plea deal, Butina also helped arrange for a group of Russians to attend the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, which was held on February 2nd, 2017, so right after Trump's inauguration. Butina emailed her purported boyfriend, Republican activist Paul Erickson, with a list of Russian attendees for the National Prayer Breakfast. She told him they were coming to the breakfast, quote, to establish a back channel of communication. That's subtle. Erickson later emailed the list to another person. Reaction to the delegation's presence in America will be conveyed directly to Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, he wrote. So we're going to talk with the Daily Beast reporter in just a moment who's been all over this story. But this is a big deal, right? This is the first Russian to plead guilty to a crime that has anything to do with influencing American politics or the 2016 election, so this is a big deal. But can we also just consider for a second what might be going on here with the NRA, right? National Rifle Association, the NRA, is thought of and has long been thought of as a powerhouse in Washington and in American politics when it comes to lobbying and influence and especially money in elections. The NRA does spend a ton of money every election cycle and especially every presidential year. But clearly, something weird happened with the NRA in 2016. For some reason, in 2016, the NRA just exploded its previous spending records. The NRA in 2016 pumped $30 million into getting Donald Trump elected. And importantly, they made sure that most of that money came out of an arm of the NRA that doesn't disclose anything about its donors. And I know, like, in the news, there's always, like, large round numbers, right? $30 million. Sounds like a lot of money. Like, big round number. What does that mean? For context here, in order to understand why I'm saying that's a really strange amount of money for them to have spent, that $30 million they spent on Trump, that is triple what they spent the last time around in the last presidential election on Mitt Romney. Almost 3 times what they spent on Romney. Now, what's that about? Trump is not a more pro-gun Republican candidate than we have seen in other election cycles. Why did the NRA go off the charts for him in a way they never had for any other candidate in any other election? And what do we make of that, especially given that we have seen the NRA's finances apparently fall apart very quickly since then? In a court filing this summer, the NRA said its financial position is so dire it may soon, quote, be unable to exist. The NRA had started a digital TV network to expand its reach and influence. That digital TV network appears to be imploding as we speak, with some of their biggest NRA TV stars getting their shows shut down, even just tonight. So what explains this gigantic seesaw? Biggest spending ever in 2016 by a mile, and then what appears to be financial ruin, certainly financial atrophy, just within a couple of years. The NRA money in the 2016 campaign just doesn't make much sense, given the history of the NRA and given the campaign. Then we got this report last week that the NRA's huge boost in spending in 2016 may not have been just independent expenditures that redounded to Donald Trump's benefit in the campaign. There's some pretty compelling evidence that there may have been illegal coordination between the Trump campaign and the NRA when it came to spending those tens of millions of dollars to elect Trump and beat Hillary Clinton. A new report in Mother Jones magazine showing that evidence, hundreds of pages of federal campaign records appearing to show the NRA and the Trump campaign overtly coordinating their messaging strategy and their ad buying through the same person. Reporters showed those records to the former chair of the Federal Election Commission, and the ex-chair told Mother Jones, quote, "I don't think I've ever seen a situation where illegal coordination seems more obvious. It's so blatant that it doesn't even seem sloppy. Everyone involved probably just thinks there aren't going to be any consequences." And I know, like, in a way, this is kind of the big round number of political scandal, right? Political campaigns and advocacy groups that aren't supposed to be coordinating with each other, nevertheless, illegally coordinating and illegally working together. I know you feel like you've heard that a million times. It's kind of a dog bites man story of federal campaign finance violations. But don't just look at that in isolation. Put that apparent closeness between the Trump campaign and the NRA, this blatant illegal coordination, what appears to be blatant illegal coordination, put that together with the NRA inexplicably tripling their spending in order to support Trump. And it does seem like there might be something going on there, especially given that their spending to support Trump was all out of a part of the NRA where they don't have to say where the money came from. I should also mention, while I'm like being snarky about campaign finance violations, willfully violating campaign finance law is starting to become maybe perhaps a more consequential thing these days. You can ask Michael Cohen about that when he turns up in court on Wednesday for his sentencing, among other things, for pleading guilty to felonies involving campaign finance laws. But alongside all that weird money stuff, there was also a strange turn that happened in the lead up to the 2016 campaign in terms of how we understand the NRA and its politics. It's a turn that seems literally foreign. In the lead up to the 2016 presidential election, there was all of a sudden a weird Russian twist in U.S. gun politics. As spelled out in Maria Butina's plea agreement in December 2015, in the middle of the presidential campaign, right before the Iowa caucuses, a former NRA president and a future NRA president and a whole delegation of NRA officials and members all got an all-expenses-paid trip to Moscow. The trip was organized by the Right to Bear Arms, purportedly a gun rights group founded by a senior member of Vladimir Putin's political party. The head of that group was Alexander Torshin, who's a deputy governor of the Russian Central Bank. He's a former senior member of the Russian parliament. He's a close ally of Vladimir Putin. And Torshin's group, this right to bear arms group, it's always been kind of a head scratcher because Putin and his party don't actually support gun rights in Russia. There's no Second Amendment in Russia. And Alexander Torshin's group doesn't actually do anything to promote gun rights in Russia at all. What they have done is make lots and lots of connections to the American NRA. This Russian government official, Alexander Torshin, and his charismatic female protege, Maria Butina, started attending the NRA's yearly conferences in the U.S. every year. Then at the start of the 2016 campaign, Torshin and Butina hosted that NRA delegation in Moscow, December 2015. Then during the campaign, Butina was flying around the country, showing up at events for various Republican presidential hopefuls during the primaries, including famously a Las Vegas event with Donald Trump, where Maria Butina became the very first person to ask Trump his position on U.S. sanctions against Russia. She was the first person to get him on record opposing those sanctions. In May 2016, Butina's boyfriend, an American Republican activist, Paul Erickson, reached out to a Trump campaign advisor offering to arrange a back-channel meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. He did it by email with the unsubtle subject line, Kremlin Connection. And Paul Erickson didn't name Alexander Torshin in the email, but he appeared to refer to him as President Putin's emissary on this front. And that overture for Erickson to set up Putin and Trump, that overture didn't work. But then that same month, Torshin himself also reportedly sought a meeting with Donald Trump at an NRA convention. And that itself didn't pan out. But Torshin did get to spend some time with Donald Trump Jr. at a private gala hosted by the NRA. And then at the beginning of this year, we learned that the FBI was investigating whether all of this, the NRA's huge spike in 2016 campaign spending, its weird and sudden and suddenly deepening Russia ties, and this Russian official, Alexander Torshin's persistent attempts to connect with Donald Trump or to connect Donald Trump and the Russian government, we learned at the beginning of this year that the FBI was investigating whether all those things might be connected. McClatchy reporting in January, quote, the FBI is investigating whether a top Russian banker with ties to the Kremlin illegally funneled money to the NRA to help Donald Trump win the presidency. Quote, FBI counterintelligence investigators have focused on the activities of Alexander Torshin, the deputy governor of Russia's central bank, who is known for his close relationships with both Russian President Vladimir Putin and the NRA. And then, of course, not long thereafter, Maria Butina got arrested and charged with conspiring against the United States as a secret Russian agent. Now, prosecutors allege that all of her work insinuating herself into conservative circles and gun rights circles in the U.S., and perhaps even her romantic relationship with this Republican activist, Paul Erickson, prosecutors have insinuated that it was all part of a Russian intelligence operation being run by Alexander Torshin. In the affidavit submitted by prosecutors in conjunction with the charges in her case, there's Maria Butina at 3 a.m., the night of the election, just after Donald Trump has won the election, emailing Alexander Torshin in Moscow, quote, I am ready for further orders. What was the NRA doing tied up with these guys? And now, just in the last week, things are moving fast for both Maria Butina and for Alexander Torshin. Last week, Alexander Torshin more or less evaporated in Moscow. The Russian Central Bank, where he had been a deputy governor and a very high-profile official, announced unexpectedly that he had suddenly retired. In Bloomberg News' rather ominous characterization, quote, the central bank declined to elaborate on its one-sentence statement Friday. Torshin did not immediately respond to attempts to reach him. Happy retirement all of a sudden. Can't have anything to do with the fact that the agent you were running in the U.S. is copping a plea and cooperating with the FBI now, can it? Because now today we've apparently got his alleged agent, Maria Butina, reportedly agreeing to cop a plea and cooperate with the FBI and federal prosecutors. So here's my question. Maria Butina has been in jail since she got arrested. She's been denied bail. We have very little window into what's been going on with her case. There's a gag order on the case. We had very little transparency there. if she, in fact, is going to plead, does that mean we're finally going to figure this out? If she's cooperating already, if she is going to enter into a formal cooperation deal and plead guilty, will this, even this week in court, shed light on, okay, what appears to be the related case of Paul Erickson, right? The Republican activist, an NRA member who was her maybe boyfriend, who appears to have been her entree into this world. We've had reports from the Daily Beast several days ago that he has received a target letter, that federal prosecutors are considering charging him as a foreign agent, as an agent of the Russian government operating in this country. Will the Erickson case finally become clear if Maria Butina is pleading and cooperating? Then there's the question of whether her plea will ultimately give us a window into what freaking happened with the NRA in the middle of this election interference scandal. Could the resolution of Maria Butina's case finally give us a window into what has been going on here? If the FBI has been investigating, among other things, the possibility that the NRA was used as a large-scale conduit for Russian money into the effort to elect Trump president, will the Maria Butina case give us a window into that investigation and its potential conclusions? A reporter who has been tracking this, who may have some insight, joins us next.